Hey, Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Supervisor Bredefield,
Here.
Supervisor Chavez, Supervisor Magsic.
Here.
Supervisor Pacheco,
Here.
Chairman Mendez.
Here.
All present, thank you.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the February 11th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will begin with the invocation and flag salute. The invocation will be led by District 2, and after the invocation, please remain standing for the flag salute.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Pastor Flores. Why don't you come up? Pastor Anthony and Mandy Flores founded Adventure Community Church in 2010. Pastor Flores has been in full-time ministry for the last 25-plus years, serving in various capacities as youth pastor, college pastor, internship director, and functioning as part of the pastoral body and executive pastoral meetings. He's a graduate of the Central Valley School of Ministry, also studied at Fresno Pacific Bible Seminary, and in accordance with his evangelistic gifting, he's passionate about leading people to Christ and watching them grow in their faith. His favorite things are faith, family, food, football, and friends. I don't know how your weekend went, but a lot of football. He played high school football, coached high school football for 5 years. Mandy, his wife, has stood by his side in ministry and life for nearly 3 decades, and they have 3 beautiful children together. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to all the supervisors, to you, Supervisor Bredefield, for reaching out, and to my supervisor in my district, Supervisor Massig. I appreciate it, and to all of you, thank you so much. If we could just bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of your blessings. We thank you for the air in our lungs and for the opportunity to gather in a great nation. Father, we thank you, and I just pray wisdom today, that wisdom would prevail, that we seek your guiding hand, your wisdom as the supervisors wrestle through and make what could be very hard decisions, Lord, that you'd give them knowledge on what these decisions, the right and the wrong, and the things they should do, and then also the discernment and when it is time to make a pivot and to make an adjustment. Father, I thank you for these men here, Lord. I thank you that you've guided them with the wisdom, knowledge, and discernment, Father God. I just pray and we ask your blessings upon this great nation and our great county of Fresno, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much.
Okay, there are agendas in the back of the table for anyone wanting to follow along. Clerk,
Item number 1, approve agenda.
any comments from the board?
Motion
Is there a
approved.
motion? Motion to approve?
Second.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll move to item 2.
Item number 2, approve consent agenda item number 17 through 30.
Okay, these matters are routine in nature and usually approved by a single vote. Are there any board members who would like to remove any items off of consent?
Only one.
Okay,
Number 20.
20?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Is there anyone in the public that wants to remove a item off consent? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the consent.
Motion approved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, so I say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Did you want to hear that on before 6?
I was going to do it after 6. But
Okay.
if you want to do it before 6, we can.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, for item number 3, the individual has called us yesterday and told us that she would not be able to attend, so we're going to go ahead and mail the plaque to her, and she was okay with that. So we move to item number 4, under Supervisor Chavez, proclaim February 2025 as Civil Grand Jury Awareness Month in Fresno County.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our clerk. I think this will be my official first proclamation that we present to our folks from the grand jury. I believe we have Colin is the gentleman that will be speaking on behalf of the grand jury. If you could come up, sir. Just wanted to thank you for your many years of service. Oftentimes, folks don't know what the grand jury does, but you make sure that eyes and ears are on government, across all levels. You do your due diligence. You do this on a volunteer basis, and we wanted to bring you in today and thank you for your many years of service and the work that you folks do. So if you want to say a few words, and then we'll have our clerk read the proclamation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm representing today for the grand jury to pick this up. I'm a member of the advisory, basically the Association of Grand Jurors for the California and the local chapter. And we are all volunteers, and we are all other grand jury members here. We're all ex-grand jury members, so we've been through the process. I've been 3 years on the grand jury. And we bring this to your attention because many people don't know what the grand jury does. They see it on television as the district attorney taking a lot of crime to the grand jury for resolution. We are the civic grand jury. So we don't look into those things. We look into the government of the counties and the cities. And it is a very interesting process, let me tell you. And we would like people to know that they get a jury notice from, of course, the county to come down and be on a jury. But to be a grand jury member, you have to reach out and want to be that member and pursue it within the grand jury. So you're looking for people who wonder about us, but don't know how to get to us. And we are trying to get out into the community. That's what the association does, to talk to organizations, individuals, et cetera, to show them how to become a grand jury member. It is a wonderful time to spend as a volunteer. A lot of people think, well, how much time do you have to have? Well, it's a semi-part-time job, is the best way to put it. But it's a year commitment, and you can extend into the second year if you would like to. I've had the opportunity to spend 3 years on the grand jury, and we are here today to again accept the proclamation for the sitting Fresno County Grand Jury, and again ask you to advocate for the grand jury as much as possible. And I brought these for you today. I printed them up first thing this morning, so they're fresh, but I'll hand those out before I leave. And of course, how to become a grand jury member. It is very easy. People can go to the website, the county website, go under grand jury, and you'll find the application to do so. So with that, we thank you very much for your attention. And again, advocating for a very important job we feel for citizens to do in the getting on the grand jury. It's been an exciting time for me, and as some of you know, I've been in television news for a lot of years, and it's sort of like being a reporter in many ways. You get to look into things, interview people, and write a report, present it to the public at the end of the year. And it is very much worthwhile and something that we would hope, again, that you would advocate as much as you can throughout the community and the publications and what you are talking to the many people that you see and do. So thank you very much for the proclamation. And if I can, I'll pass these out. I don't want to.
Well, you'll be asked to come up, so just hang on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a quick second. So what I'll do is I'll do the synthesized version. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize the efforts of those Fresno County civil grand jurors, both past and present, who have volunteered their time and service. Now therefore be resolved that the Fresno County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaim the month of February 2025 as Civil Grand Jury Awareness Month. And with that, can I get a motion to approve?
You want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any public comment? Hearing none, all in
Mr. Chair,
favor?
if I could just mention, the speaker mentioned that you can find information on the court website about how to apply for the grand jury. And now is the time to start doing that because it takes it's a several month process to go through that application process, and the appointments are made in, the appointments are made which month?
Your office is responsible for it.
No, I have an attorney that I'm completely cut off from that does serve with the grand jury, but It now, what I wanted to point out was
It
we
ends
have-
in March,
Yeah,
March 31st.
Yeah.
yeah, so you.
But
you
we're in
wanna-
that period right now.
Yeah,
so
you
I
want to
think-
get
Yes.
in right now.
But we're always looking, of course, for next year for people to get involved. And it's a one-year commitment from June 30th to July 31st. And again, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Motion made.
Okay, all in favor, so I'm saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Please come up.
Whoops.
Good, good.
Thank you. Doing well. Good to see you.
Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. It is a conflict for me to serve. Always getting called.
Get to take a picture with us. If you would like.
Generally, since I'm short, I'm always getting in the front.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again.
We now move to item number 5 under Supervisor Maxig, proclaim February 2025 as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month in Fresno County.
Turn it over to you, Supervisor.
Thank you, Chairman. And we have a couple representatives from Marjorie Mason Center who I would invite to come forward to the microphone right now. And this particular proclamation is timely because when you take a look at teen violence, there are estimates out there that 1 in 3 teens is physically, emotionally, or verbally abused by a dating partner. And so just awareness that this is taking place is important to Fresno County. So with that, I will turn it over to Marjorie Mason Center.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for recognizing that February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. My name is Jessica Saylor, and I have the privilege of overseeing the Prevention and Education Department at the Marjorie Mason Center. 1 in 3 teens experience some form of dating violence. We have seen since the launch of our data dashboard in 2023 that there has been an increase in calls with law enforcement to individuals who are under the age of 18. And we do think that this is underreported because students may be intimidated by the idea of calling law enforcement. This month in February, we increase our efforts to educate our community and the youth about unhealthy relationships. We work to educate not only the youth in our lives, but also the community around us to help them become aware that teen dating violence is something that we see throughout the entire county. We have a program, a trademark program of the Marjorie Mason Center called No More that we facilitate through schools. We are in 7 school districts, 30 high schools, 21 middle schools. And this school year, we are expected to have been able to educate over 11,000 students throughout the county. This program not only offers students the knowledge and skills to keep in their toolbox to have healthy relationships, but it encourages them to have conversations with their friends and their parents and the adults in their lives so that they can then hopefully become advocates in our community. This program cannot be done without the team. They're going to be very embarrassed that I pointed them out, but Kiara and Mathis are 2 of the 3 prevention and education specialists that go into schools and really help cultivate relationships with students in order for them to feel comfortable to talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships. But thank you for recognizing this month, and we look forward to all the exciting things that are coming and hopefully ending teen dating violence.
Thank you. And with that, I'm ready to make a motion for this proclamation.
I would just like to say thank you for the work that you do, because I do think it is a serious problem. I think it is underreported, and the more it can be highlighted with the work that you and your colleagues do, the better it is for everybody. So thank you for what you do, and thank you, Supervisor Maxey.
Is there any public comment on this item? Since there isn't, you made a motion? Second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Please come forward.
We now move to item number 6 under Supervisor Bredefield. Discuss and consider amendment to or termination of Administrative Policy Number 75, Community Outreach Services.
Okay, Supervisor
Yes,
Bradfeld.
thank you very much. Yeah, this is taking a look at Administrative Policy Number 75, which basically requires that whenever any board member wants to utilize their district funds for a community event, we have to have it, I guess, approved through the county council, who then generally brings it before the board. We have 2 items on the agenda today in consent. One is a $1,500 donation that I'm making from my budget to support Blue Run, and one, I think, from Supervisor Magzig for approximately $250 for another community event. Both of us now have to have had this screened through the county council and then come before the board. I absolutely feel that this is unnecessary, this administrative order. I'm not sure why it was initiated. All of us oversee a $5 billion budget with a B. We make important decisions impacting various departments and make critical decisions. That's our job, to look at how money should be spent and how it should be spent appropriately and wisely. When there are issues related to the expenditures of those dollars, we have county council. And certainly we have the same thing with our district budgets. Each one of us here is elected to oversee our own budgets as well as the budget for the entire county. And I think this administrative order, the purpose of it may have been well-intentioned. It, to me, is completely unnecessary. It talks about allowable expenditures. It talks about prohibited expenditures. We all have to deal with the FPPC. We all have to make decisions with our own campaign accounts. All of us understand the rules. All of us understand the consequences if we don't follow the rules. And this feels very much like we are treating ourselves like children and have to go to Daddy County Council to get approval for expenditures we already understand whether they're not appropriate. So I'm not sure why this policy got initiated, but I think it's long overdue that we eradicate it and treat ourselves like the responsible supervisors we profess to be, run on, and handle every year with a $5 billion budget. With that in mind, I think we should be able to make decisions as to whether or not we want to expend money for community events, and there is much need out there. At the city, we certainly have our own infrastructure budgets, large amount of budgets. They have credit cards. We don't have credit cards. I never had a credit card at the city, didn't request one, didn't feel the need for one, don't feel the need for one now, but certainly want to have the freedom to assist people in my community, in my district, who I feel would benefit from the support of the county, and it's their tax dollars being spent on events that are important to the community. So with that in mind, I would ask that this board rescind Administrative Policy 75, which would then put the responsibility and onus on us to make determinations on those expenditures if we want to help our community without having to get it approved by a county council and then bring it before a board. We don't do that with any other expenditures with the budget when we deal with the budget. So I would make a motion that we rescind Administrative Policy 75 because it really isn't necessary, and all of us can make those determinations for ourselves. And I'd be curious to hear the feedback from other people.
Who wants to go first?
Chairman Mendez, yeah, I agree with the comments that my colleague Supervisor Bredefeld made. I guess the only question I would have is, so if we rescind this, what would replace it? Obviously, we need to have a formal structure, has checks and balances. You and I are familiar with what we have at the city. Everything is public. Would we be looking at a threshold, a certain amount? I think our CAO had some tiers that he shared with us. Is it the same rule under 50,000 rule, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, I think 50,000, anything more significant, and what would a $50,000 expenditure be? I see that more as if you're gonna repair sidewalks and you want to get into a contract with somebody to fix sidewalks. I don't see any serious expenditure for a community event in that regard. I don't think we've seen that at the city. I certainly wouldn't support anything like that.
And then,
But
and then
everything is, as you
this,
alluded to.
you know this too, Supervisor Redfield, over at the city. I mean, we're subjected to PRAs and
Yes.
information and things of that sort. I think we also want to be transparent about what we're spending our money on. Would that be part of the yearly budget discussion? And
Well, that's what I was going to say. Every expenditure is open to the public, and it's subject to review by whatever any of us do up here. And that's the oversight. And, we are elected people. We're accountable for the decisions that we make. And that's why I don't feel the need, if I want to spend $1,500 for Support Blue Run, that I need to have it screened by the county council and then bring it before the board. I think I understand what $1,500 going to support law enforcement in their fundraising events means, and I'm accountable for making that decision. And all of us are, and I have, when Supervisor Magzu wants to spend $250 or $2,500, I don't feel he needs to come to me to get an approval, nor should he have to go to the county council. If you have a question about the legality of it, which sometimes it emerges, we have county council to consult with. Certainly when I've been at the city and I had a question about it, I would ask our city attorney, is this an appropriate expenditure? Is there any issue with that? So it's,
and I think our legal counsel has done that already. He put together I had a chance to read through some of the stuff, the not allowed, what's allowed, things of that sort on there. I'd be supportive of something like that, Supervisor Butterfield.
Okay, go ahead, Supervisor.
I bring a little bit different perspective. I am open to modifications to, Policy 75, but, I came from the city of Clovis. And here in Clovis, here's what I came from. No budget, no staff. Anything I wanted to do, I paid for out of my own pocket, or I'd have to use campaign funds. And so I can appreciate, just the different viewpoints. In the city of Fresno, council members have $1 million budget or something like that, I believe.
Yes, they do.
And here, it's closer to, I think, around $600,000 roughly. But that budget has to pay for our staff. It's got to pay for, materials, printing materials, our phones, our computers. And then anything that we spend outside of just basic functions, we've got to bring before the board. So for me, coming from the city of Clovis, where I started with absolutely nothing, I'm actually elated that I have a little bit of a budget that I can use to help support events in Shaver or other areas. But to your point, I think it's important for us to look for opportunities to make things more transparent to the public and also easier on staff. So here's a great example. I've seen elected officials use budget funds. No one here, but I've seen it, where they do mailings. And I believe the threshold for mailings is if you mail to over 250 people, it's around there, around 250. If you mail over that, an elected official's name can't appear more than twice on that mailing. But I've seen electeds do mass mailings using their city or county budgets in violation of a law. You can get the Attorney General coming after you. And so I appreciate the scrutiny that's out there, and sometimes more layers of scrutiny are better than less. But if there is an opportunity for county council to say, if you're making a donation under $1,000 or $500 or whatever, $2,000, I don't know what that threshold needs to be, I would be against $50,000. I think that's huge in my book. But again, it's all a matter of perspective. But like if we're working with different nonprofits that the county has done business with, because another challenge that we have too is the county has to issue some form of payment. And if we authorize a payment to an entity that we believe is a nonprofit, but maybe they're not in good standing with the state, the county may get itself in hot water when we're audited because we may have issued a payment to an entity that we can't be issuing a payment to. I'm just using a very broad example. But I'm definitely open to looking at ways to make it more user-friendly because we are adults up here and we do have big budgets. And yes, $5.2 billion budget that we oversee is the largest in the county. And so we have a lot of responsibility, and I do have an appreciation for that.
Do you have a recommendation, Supervisor, and what?
I want to hear from my other colleagues what their points are, what the public may have to say, and I may have an idea on how we can split the baby, maybe.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
Well, I am not in favor of splitting the baby. I feel it's a little ironic, Supervisor, that you bring this forward, because at our last meeting, you went on with our departments about transparency and accountability. For me, this is 100% transparent and accountability because we are using taxpayer money. And I realize it's different from the city to the county. The difference is that I believe Supervisor Mendes and we come from the private sector. We did not have any budget that we spend anybody's money on except our own. And while we all are adults and we all can make reasonable decisions, for the points that Supervisor Maxig said, there are times that you may do something and not know of all the other little ramifications. And the problem that I have is, like at the city, when it was a big issue 2 years ago, when they're spending taxpayer money on candy apples and dunk tanks and all, which I realize you did not do, fully acknowledge that you did not do, but others do. And when that happens, people don't differentiate, well, this person did it and that one did it, it's the board. And I would use the example that if one of us were to make a mistake, we would all be held accountable because it's taxpayer money. And I would use the example of what you used throughout the campaign when you kept saying that the board hid the Reedley lab and the board did this and that. As an individual, I said many times on the public record, I knew nothing about that until it came in the newspaper. So again, if one of us were to make an error through no fault of their own, simply make an error, we're all blamed and held accountable, and I don't want to be held accountable for someone else's mistake. I will fully accept any mistake that I make on my behalf and will accept whatever comes of that. But I believe this is, as Supervisor Maxig said, this is a check and balance. This is taxpayer money. It goes through county council, which he gets it, and then it comes to the board that we all do it. In my 10 years here, I don't think it has ever been turned down. But this is, again, transparency and accountability to the greatest extent. And I don't want to get rid of that. And I think if you want to avoid that, then you do like Supervisor Mendes and I do on many occasions, and you write the check out of your own pocketbook, and then nobody has to know nothing. But when you use taxpayer money, I believe this is a good policy, transparency and accountability, and I'm not in favor of making any change at all. And again, I don't want to be held accountable for someone else's mistake involving taxpayer money. So for that, I want to leave it as is. If the will of the board, if there's three that want to change, modify, I accept the rule of three, but I will not be one of them. That's it, Supervisor Mendes.
Okay, well, I totally agree with Supervisor Pacheco. And I have, in the past, where I didn't spend taxpayer money, I would just write a check out of one of my own accounts, my personal accounts for stuff. So I think this is the most transparent thing we have. And like Supervisor Pacheco said, we have never denied one, ever, that I remember. And I know that a post from the city downstairs, the Auditor Controller's office is a little tough on writing checks. There's a lot of checks and balances before they actually write a check. And that's probably a little different than the city. You guys will experience it, as time goes by. But I'm in agreement with Supervisor Pacheco. I'll do whatever the rule of three says, but I'm not for any modification or changing what we're doing right now.
Chairman, just to follow up, I understand the concerns that you're saying. That's one of the reasons why I mentioned what I had mentioned to Supervisor Bredefeld. I think there is a space that we could get to where we do have that transparency. We do have the ability for anybody to see exactly what we're spending our funds on. I think individually, we all have our own donations that we do. I support a lot of groups personally, organizations, my church, Catholic Diocese, organizations like that of that sort. But when you're dealing with the public arena, I think there is value in supporting partners that support our community too. And I think that's my approach to this. I'm comfortable with our legal counsel checking, making sure that this organization has a valid 501c3, making sure that their 1099 form is in order and that everything is transparent. I personally do that when I have done that at the city. I do think we need to have those checks and balances, but I do think, I don't feel that Supervisor Magzik or Supervisor Bredefeld should come to the board and have a conversation about $200+ for an event that they have. That's just philosophically my approach, but I do agree with the checks and balances and what we do need to have in place, because I think that is important. And look, I'm sitting across from one of my colleagues that flagged every single credit card expenditure out there that existed. And at the end of the day, we all answer to our constituents. They have a vote, and they say you're doing a good job, or hit the road on there. So I think we can get to a balance of that.
Go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate your comments, Supervisor Pacheco. This is, moving forward, as I'm suggesting, from my perspective, doesn't reduce any transparency or accountability, because we share that, making sure that we are always transparent and accountable. There is a public record, whatever we spend, and that's not hidden from anybody, nor would I ever want it to be. I disagree with you on the point, if somebody makes a mistake, if you make a mistake or I make a mistake, somehow you're accountable for it. You're not. All of us are accountable to the public as well as to our constituents. That doesn't change. So I disagree with that. But I understand the sentiment. I do think there's some way to find some compromise without having to bring $250 or $1,500 to bring it before the board. And again, if they're generally just always been approved, I don't see the reason to be bringing it just to say that we're doing it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I again come back to you, Supervisor Magzik. Do you have some suggestion
I was going to go back to him because he's,
Well, so here's how I would split the baby, because I think everything that everyone said, I can appreciate, and so I don't want to do away with Policy 75, but I think one of the things that we could do is, typically, we know if we're going to want to sponsor an event, we have, a week or two notice, and sometimes it can take as long as 4 to 6 weeks to get something on the agenda. So maybe one modification that I'd like to make to Policy 75 and to make it clear for spending that we want to do with our budget, so time doesn't keep us from being able to participate in an event. As long as we have 2 weeks before a meeting, any item that we want to make an expenditure on can be brought before the board as long as there's at least 2 weeks' notice. That's one thing I'd like to make a modification on. But those items still come to the board. If after another 6 months or so, 3 to 6 months, that you guys have been on the board, if you have other ideas of how we can maybe do it better to, again, reduce staff time, but also not reduce transparency, I'm open for other ideas. I think it's good to have items come before the board, but making sure that we don't miss out on opportunities to sponsor or help organizations that we want. I want to make sure that that's in place too. So that would be my split the baby idea.
Let me ask you. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, just a question on that. So Supervisor Maxey, so the way it would work is the individual district office would make those expenditures, and then they would just come and be flagged as part of a agenda meeting, say, I don't know, District 1, District 2, 3 spent this on that, and then just flag
No,
it as-
so how it would work is if there's an event that we want to participate in, and we're made aware of that event, it would be placed on the agenda within a 2-week time frame. So if there was a meeting that was coming up, say on the 14th, and you got information about this on the end of the month, you could place it on the agenda. Because typically what happens is if you want to place an item on the agenda, it can take sometimes 4 to 6, even sometimes 6 months with ordinances. If you want to place something on the agenda because of all the background work and research that needs to take place. This will require staff to make it a priority to review these items. I've had good experiences with Dan where when my office fills out an application, sends it over to Dan for his review, he'll say, this is in line, but you need to bring it before the board for approval. This will make sure that it gets before the board in a timely way, so there won't be events that we miss out on because, maybe we find out about an event a couple weeks in advance. This will allow us to get it on the agenda to get approval right away. I know for the item on the agenda for me today, that event is going to be on Saturday. I didn't find out about it until about 3 weeks ago, and I didn't have an opportunity to get it on the agenda until now. I called the organization, let them know what I was doing, and they were okay with that. So, and if I would have gotten denied here today, I just would have paid out of my own pocket. But to Supervisor Mendez's point, this body hasn't rejected any expenditures in the last 10 years because they've already gone through a level of vetting by county council before it makes it here. So, but I think that way none of us will miss out on opportunities to participate in events that we want for our district.
Let me ask you, Supervisor, would you be willing just to have it vetted through the county council? And if he approves it, it doesn't have to come before the board?
I think in some cases they can do that now, and I'm open to that. But what I want to make sure is I never want to put county council in a position where someone can bring a legal challenge, because ultimately when it comes to spending authority of this body, it's up to us. There are some department heads who have spending authority up to $200,000, which I think are CAO. Is that correct? Yep. They have certain spending limits. I don't know that we've given county council spending authority, and maybe we have, and I'm just not aware.
Technically, it's the purchasing agent that has the authority, and every department head can authorize a contract through the purchasing agent up to $200,000. There's no individual in this county, except in emergency situations, that has the authority to make a contract, for the county. So that, one of the things is if you drop me out of the loop, which I wouldn't be terribly upset about, to be honest, there still are some structural things that you have to account for in terms of maybe allocations in the budget for certain things, because the auditor controller can't spend unless there's an authorized thing. This would not be a situation where checks could just be written out of a side account by an individual supervisor, but you could authorize it right away, and that process doesn't take very long.
Because technically, we don't have authorization to spend money as
Pardon me?
individuals. We don't have authorization to spend money.
Correct.
as
The board
individuals.
operates as a unit.
Yeah,
and
we
the government
operate as a
code
body.
operates as,
Yeah.
as three. Yeah. And right now, for instance, when you spend money out of your office budget, it goes through the clerk, which is technically the CAO,
Yeah.
to make those office expenditures according to the expenditure policies and procedures
Right.
of the board. If you wanted to make these other expenditures go through that process, that would, you could develop a process that would allow for, that authorization, provided the system is set up for that.
No, I made that comment about the auditor controller earlier because if we don't, whatever we do, if we don't do it correctly, it's going to come back and the auditor controller is going to say, well, I can't do it because you don't have authorization. Right.
So Chairman, right now, maybe this question for our legal counsel, what authority does each department head for expenditures within their own department right now?
I'd actually want to ask,
Or maybe our CO?
ISD in terms of there's purchasing order expenditures that can be authorized up to a certain amount, and that's not very high. But again, you have one department head that is authorized to do that. The board, unlike the city, which I understand the charter makes each of you an individual officer and gives you, has given you contracting authority. Under the government code, the board is 5 people and can only, delegate things as a unit. And so.
Well, that's the case at the city too. They're the ultimate fiduciary agents of the city as a collective body.
And you still have to go through the auditing, the audit process to have something to pay on. And otherwise, the auditor is going to look and say, there's no authorized contract. And that authorized contract, I can't sign a contract and make the auditor pay on it. I have to go through the purchasing agent. And the same is true for the behavioral health director, the ISD director. They only have that ability by going through the purchasing agent.
So our CEO, what would be the authority right now that each department head has? Because obviously they're not going to come to the board to buy, supplies or
No.
things of that sort.
Well,
No, so-
those have allocations in the budget specifically for.
Well,
those.
they do. So, I mean, they've got budget allocations, but I mean, to Dan's point, the CIO is the purchasing agent, but that's delegated to our purchasing manager. So they are subject to the purchasing guidelines. Typically, short of going to the board, it's a $200,000 limit, but that's typically for a contract of, before they actually bring it to the board, but that's.
And that's for something that's already been allocated during the
Correct.
budget.
It's already, and they're working through our purchasing guidelines to do so.
So for us as a body, if during the budget, we decided to structure our departments a certain way and we had a public discussion on what we were going to allocate, then that would satisfy that allocation,
Yeah, it's going to be within a line item that's already been approved within the budget.
like
Correct.
7296 when we discussed that line item
Correct.
on there. Okay. All right. Okay.
So just to clarify with Supervisor Magus, are you still feeling if it goes through as it is right now with the county clerk, you still feel the need that if he approves an item, it still should come to the board?
Well, I mean, if there's a way to keep it from coming to the board, but legal is able to look at it and approve it, I'm okay with that. The nice thing when it comes to the board is if there is an issue that arises, it's gone through legal, we've had a public process, and then it's been approved. So looking at it from a defensibility standpoint, I think that's the most defensible way to do it. But I'm open to it going to county council, having them vet it and give the green light, so it doesn't have to come to a full board meeting.
So
if
that's
there's
what
a
I'm
way to
asking.
do that.
So if he approves it and he says there's no issue, can we just move forward and then have the expenditure? If he raises a red flag, absolutely bring it before the board.
It comes to the board.
I mean, I
Willing to support that.
I could support something like that, but I don't know that we have enough to vote on an item like that without us bringing something back. Because if we eliminate the way that Policy 75 operates without having another structure in place, I think we open ourselves up to some challenges.
I've
So
got it. I just got something. Why don't we table this item and you get together with Magzik and work with us, county council, and bring something back to this
With the
body?
change of the language?
Yeah, it's a good idea, Supervisor.
Yeah, you okay with that?
So we're just gonna table it and you guys will work on it.
That sounds like a good idea.
So I take it that Supervisor Bredefeld is rescinding his motion that was on the
Yes.
floor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
That's why I asked him,
yeah.
because he made a motion.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then Supervisor Magzik and I will get together with county council, we'll bring something back.
Yeah.
Sounds good, thank you.
No. So you want to go to item 20?
Yes. So item 20 that was pulled by Supervisor Bredefeld under the Administrative Office verified that members of the Child Care and Development Local Planning Council identified in the certification statement regarding the Child Care and Development Local Planning Council membership meet the council representations and categories mandated by the California Welfare and Institution Code, Section 10485.
Yes, hi. Just wanted to address the local planning council, if you could just address for the public what it is that they're basically overseeing. Are they overseeing any kind of budget? And the issue where they talk about ensuring the ethnic, racial, and geographic composition of childcare. If you could address those issues.
Sure. Good morning, Supervisors. Ron Alexander with the Administrative Office. Also with me today are Matilda Soria and Elsie Rodriguez.
Can't hear you
Oops,
too
sorry. With me is Matilda Soria and Elsie Rodriguez from the FCOE to answer some of those questions. Regarding the ethnic and racial composition of the board, the Welfare and Institutions Code does state that every effort should be made to ensure that the ethnic and racial composition of that board is comprehensive of what our county is derived of. We do, whenever I get that membership roster from the LPC, I do take a look at the 2020 census and make sure that it does meet our geographic and ethnic composition, which it does. As far as the role that the LPC provides, I'll go ahead and defer to the
Sure.
LPC.
Thank you so much, Supervisor
ma'am.
Bredefield, for inviting us to
Sure,
present.
sure.
The mission of the Child Care and Development Local Planning Council is to essentially increase access to childcare within Fresno County. It's a voluntary body of community members that are appointed 50% by Fresno County Superintendent of Schools and 50% by the Board of Supervisors. And can you repeat your second question? I apologize.
Are you overseeing any dollars?
We are not
You're not,
overseeing
just
any
making
dollars.
recommendations?
Correct.
And why is it that half of the body is not filled? There's 30-member board?
Yes, so we could have a maximum of 30. We're not required in terms of having a minimum number of members.
Okay.
So
And,
we could have up to 30.
and so your role is to look at where in the community they need childcare centers?
Correct. So we collect data from a variety of different sources, and we report that data to both the California Department of Social Services and California Department of Education. And when funding is available from both of those bodies, they look at that data to determine where there's need within the county.
Okay, and the language of the ethnic, racial, and geographic composition is kind of a state mandate?
It is. It's part of the WIC code, although it says make every effort to, so it's not a requirement per
Right.
se. First and foremost, we want to make sure that members bring their experience and expertise and knowledge to the council so that they could help to inform the state.
Thank you. I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion to approve. Second, is there any public comment? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Go to
Thank you.
item 7.
That concludes all consent items. We return to our regular agenda. Item number 7, under the Administrative Office, adopt recommended changes to the Fresno County Federal Legislative Platform. Authorize chairman to execute letters of support or opposition in accordance with the platform. Authorize County Administrative Office to work with the county's federal congressional delegation, federal advocates, and/or other necessary parties to support or oppose legislation in accordance with the platform. Receive presentation from federal lobbyist Townsend Public Affairs regarding legislative actions.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Samantha Buck, Deputy CAO. The item before your board will adopt recommended changes to the federal legislative platform. This is the annual update of the platform ahead of the NACO conference, which will be held back in DC. Supervisor Magsig, Paul Nerlin, and myself will be attending that to advocate on behalf of the county. The platform also provides a statement of the goals and priorities of your board, and it serves as a basis of advocacy efforts in Congress and agencies. And it was updated with input from county departments and our federal legislative advocates. Now, for the format of this presentation, I typically provide your board with a high-level overview of the recommended changes by section. Your board then has an opportunity to review and provide comments and make changes, and then I will ask your board to adopt the revised platform. At that point, after adoption of the platform, I'll turn the presentation over to our federal legislative advocates we have joining us here. They will provide us with updates on activities in DC. I did want to point out that we do have a new federal legislative advocacy firm. It's Townsend Public Affairs, and Ben Golding, their federal advocacy director, is joining us here via teleconference from DC. And then Spencer Street, their senior associate, is here in person. Now, moving on to the changes in the platform, under the major legislative issues, under the no clawback provision, we remove the reference to COVID funding. As you're aware, the deadline to obligate those funds ended December 31st of 24, so now it'll apply to no clawback for all federal funding. Under Ag, we revise the language to encourage swift reauthorization of the Farm Bill. Under Energy and Air Quality, we changed the term green to environmentally conscious. Under Environmental Quality and Natural Resources, we added language in support of legislation that provides funding for the National Forest Service to perform wildfire mitigation activities on forest lands within the county. Housing and homelessness. Now, this is a new section we added, and it expands the definition of chronic homelessness to better serve vulnerable populations. We also added flexibility to better address local needs and streamline regulations to accelerate affordable housing development. Under public, behavioral, and healthcare services, we added language in support of policies and funding aimed at improving the healthcare worker shortage, especially in rural areas. Under social services, we revised the language to increase funding in support of flexibilities, enabling agencies to serve individuals and families needing Medicaid, TANF, and SNAP funding. We revised language to oppose efforts to reduce or limit the federal funding for the Medicaid administration because there is talk in terms of turning that funding into block grant. And then we added language in support of the federal efforts to align with the state CalWORKs due to California's participation in the Fiscal Responsibility Act pilot program. And what this, the change we did is change the outcome measures to be in line with family stability and well-being, if I could say this, well-being instead of the work participation rate. And then lastly, underwater, we revised the language in support of the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation's reinitiation of consultation to support the continued evaluation of the long-term coordinated operations of the Central Valley and state water projects to increase water supply and availability and reliability for the valley. This concludes my presentation. I'm available should your board have questions.
Is there any questions from the board?
Yeah, Chairman Mendez, thank you. No really questions. I met with our staff yesterday, and they walked me through our federal platform. I think it was the timing as well. We do have a new administration in DC, so we're trying to be strategic about going after funds. And along those lines, I work with them, and I wanted to see if we could include an effort to support legislation that maximizes the Brownfield Act grants for Fresno County funding. And I have some verbiage here that our staff worked with me, so I'd like to enter that into the record and get some consideration from my colleagues. So read, support legislation that maximizes Brownfield Act grant funding to protect human health by cleaning contaminated sites, boost the economy by revitalizing urban areas, creating jobs, and reduce urban sprawl by promoting the reuse of existing sites. So essentially, it would be our folks going after some brownfield cleanup grant funding from the federal government.
And I would maybe broaden the definition a little bit. I know the focus is on urban areas, but we have a lot of unincorporated communities as well as 13 other cities that might not be considered part of the urban area. So if you're open to also maybe changing the definition of what we're looking for, just anywhere where there's an opportunity to clean up a site and do some redevelopment, if you're open to that, I can be supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a
includes
good
the whole
idea.
county. Perfect.
Go ahead.
There's supposed to be a presentation. Did you want me to address any questions now or wait for the other presentation from the,
I think you can do it now.
okay,
Yeah.
wait, sure. On page 4 of 9, under General Government and Finance, the last point alludes to green initiatives and we said earlier, environmentally conscious.
Yes, so we are going to make that change.
Okay, all right. And on the page 6 of 9, under Public Health, on the, you have a last one that's in red, and then there are 3 above that. It says support legislation aimed at a comprehensive approach to addressing the growing opioid epidemic, as well as increased funding for these programs, including harm reduction services, programs, and activities. Harm reduction services programs is the needle exchange program. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm not supportive of the needle exchange program. I think it's a horrid program and is destructive. And the county, unfortunately, has supported it by a slim majority. I don't know if people are willing to change and take out the language of harm reduction services. But I would request that for me to support this, which I want to support. I want to support the platform. But I understand, Samantha, that I can't, this is an up or down vote on the entire platform, correct?
Correct. It serves as your board's priorities.
Okay. Would the board be willing to take out harm reduction services?
Maybe some ideas here on this. So the language, including harm reduction services, does that only apply to needle exchange, or can it also be for, like, I know sometimes methadone clinics are out there to assist people who are moving away from harder drugs. So harm reduction services, does that only mean needle exchange, or does it mean a whole host of other things?
Right. It's my understanding with that program, they do offer other services alongside with the needle exchange.
And if we were to get additional funding specific to needle exchange, that would have to be brought back to this board for approval and acceptance, correct?
Correct.
So what I would offer up,
Say that last point. Nick.
if we did get funding for a needle exchange program and the Department of Public Health was looking to deploy that program, it would have to come back to this board for approval. So for me, I was one of the ones who voted no against the needle exchange program, but I fully support what the Department of Public Health is doing, and the fact that a lot of these individuals who are hooked on drugs need other services, and they end up in our emergency room. So what I would offer up is I continue to be opposed to the county, in my eyes, being a facilitator for drug use, but I can be supportive of this language because it includes other things aside from needle exchange, and I'm not a supporter of needle exchange program. I am on a record, but I am supportive of this language, and hopefully staff knows that if they do bring something forward, I'll continue to be, opposed to needle exchange
Can
programs.
you address what those other programs are that falls into harm reduction? Because when the needle exchange program is discussed, it's always about this is harm reduction. What other services would there be that is not included in the needle exchange that falls under harm reduction?
So I'll speak just a couple things to clarify. So the county currently does not fund that program. So that
Right.
is through funding that comes through other organizations.
Well, you don't fund it, but you are supporting it and you're using county staff
County is hosting it at a facility, at a public health facility. That is correct.
and using county staff.
County staff is there to support it, correct. But the other services that are there include that they give out food. We have our social services department there, so we've had some unhoused coming that are, because they're coming to that, are accessing services that are often they may get at our social services facilities that they're actually gaining by coming. In fact, some have found that because the wait is less on a Saturday morning when we have that open, that they're coming for those services primarily when they're open on Saturday morning. So it's a myriad of services, but they offer food, they offer counseling, they offer medical care. So they've got some that are coming that are not going to a hospital or a doctor, but are actually seeing a doctor primarily for, and then of course some of them are actually going into drug treatment services after they come to the program. So it's a myriad of services that's happening on Saturdays.
I will accept that, and I appreciate that, Supervisor Magzik. And below that, it says, oppose mandates or orders that usurp local and state authority requiring health or vaccination status as a condition of employment or access to services. Yet this county has initiated an influenza vaccine mandate. There have been some nurses who have lost employment as a result of that, particularly, I understand, at Kaiser. So we're saying we don't support mandates, we oppose them. And yet this board has supported this flu vaccine mandate, which requires healthcare personnel, if they don't get the vaccine, to wear a mask for 5 months, full-time, every day. So on the one hand, we're saying we oppose it. On the other hand, this board has supported that. I support opposing mandates. Unfortunately, though, we're being inconsistent since the board supported the flu vaccine mandate that went into effect, I think, in November or December.
Nothing was brought to this board in regards to that, to my knowledge. And I'm not aware of a mandate per se. I think Dr. Vora may have issued a letter, but as far as this board issuing a mandate, please correct me, CAO, on that particular issue.
So the title of what it's called, I think we're maybe getting to the semantics of it, it does speak to a requirement to wear masks at hospitals, but they'll also say voluntary compliance. But I know to Supervisor Brettefield's point, the hospitals, as I understand it, came to our public health department asking almost for the support because they were getting some patients asking for that. It is voluntary compliance, but the wording of it is the question, I think, of what it says. But there is a
Did that come to the board, or was
No.
that done by, that's public health? So the public health department has some authority, broad authority when it comes to
Correct.
different issues. But just to be clear, this board, to my knowledge, has never issued any mandate when it comes to vaccines.
But this board, Supervisor, can call into question what its Department of Public Health is doing, and we should. If we disagree with the mandate, it is up to us as elected leaders to call it out, to bring it to this board, and to say, we don't support this, and we want this rescinded. That's not happening. I would suggest if there's enough board members to do that, and I'll lead the charge to do that. So yes, we can turn a blind eye to the fact that Dr. Vore has done this and say, we, the board, didn't do this, but we, the board, have oversight over everything that happens in this county. And so we should, if we support what's in this federal mandate or legislative platform and we oppose these things, then we should oppose these things. We shouldn't just say we oppose them and then turn a blind eye when they're actually happening under our nose.
But Supervisor Bredefield, what would that actually look like in practical forms?
Well, I'll ask the CAO what the logistics would be. I assume we would put it on the agenda.
Because I don't think you can force anybody to get a vaccine, right?
Well, if you're not going to keep your job, I think there's pressure. We saw that all during COVID. We saw all the mistakes and the atrocities that took place under science, and we're obviously haven't learned anything. I don't think Dr. Vore has learned anything because he's still facilitating this mandate, and I don't think we as a board should be supporting it. We should be taking a very position since right here, we say we oppose this.
And again, I want to make sure I understand, this is our first time doing this. This platform is just guidance for our folks at the federal level to go get funding. It still has to come back to this board for ratification and debate and discussion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm understanding Supervisor Brettefeld, he's supportive of it being in the platform, but you'd like discussion on the other issue itself.
Yes,
So,
I support
correct.
this
Yeah.
as part of being the platform, but if we support this, then we should not be turning a blind eye to the fact in our county, we are forcing people, healthcare personnel, to where if they don't want to take a vaccine and they have every right not to, and if you want to, you have every right to take it. But I don't think we should be forcing people, and if they don't, they are now forced to wear a mask every day, every week, for 5 months. Have we learned nothing about how ineffective masks are with viruses, number one, but also the problems in wearing masks all day long? None of us want to be wearing a mask all day long. And yet we're doing that again. That is going on right now in this county. And yet we have it on our platform that we oppose it, which I support.
So my suggestion at your board's discretion is that could be discussed back here at this board separately to discuss that, just have we can have public health come speak to that directly.
We can. I just want to point out that there's a double standard. We're saying one thing and doing another.
Okay. It's noted.
Noted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's get back to the platform.
Yes, okay. And I think that is it. And I would like to say also, I greatly appreciate the fact that we have in here opposing reducing any penalties for drug usage, particularly marijuana is what's mentioned. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
We have one clarification or two.
I think we have two. So we've got the amendment offered by Supervisor Chavez and then modified a friendly amendment from Supervisor Magsig adding and rural areas, if I understood correctly. And then I think there was a motion. I think we resolved the other concerns that Supervisor Brettefeld had.
Yeah.
So that's just the one.
Yeah, what page was that on?
That is on page 6 of 9. No, I'm sorry, I'm on the first one. That is, this would be under economic development. This would be on page 3 of 9. And so it would be under the economic development section. It would be adding a new bullet to that section. Supporting maximizing Brownfield Act grant funding.
Right,
For the whole county, not just the.
right. That's fine.
Samantha, did you have anything else to add? Yeah,
No, just if, after public comment, kind of format-wise, kind of getting back to the housekeeping, if we could, after public comment, adopt this, and then we'll turn it over to the advocates to provide an update on what's going on in DC.
okay, so the update is after we approve the platform?
Correct.
Okay,
So I'll ask for public comment at this time on our administrative federal platform. Hearing none, we will.
Move for approval.
Okay, got a motion, you gonna second it? Okay, got a motion and a second, all in favor is going to say an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. I'll turn it back to you, Sam.
All right, thank you, supervisors. We have, joining us here, we have Spencer Street from Townsend and Associates, and then joining us via teleconference is Ben Goldine. I'll turn it over to them.
The presenters are requesting that all mics be turned off so that there's no echoing. Thank you.
Perfect. Chairman, supervisors, thank you very much for having me. County staff also, thank you for supporting us. I'm Spencer Street with Townsend Public Affairs out of our Sacramento office, and I'm joined remotely by Ben Goldine, our Federal Advocacy Director out of Washington, D.C. I'll turn it over to Ben.
Sharing the wrong screen. Hey, good morning, Chairman Mendez and members of the Board of Supervisors. Great to be with you today. Again, I'm Ben Goldine, the
There he goes.
Federal Advocacy Director of Townsend Public Affairs. Spencer, can you your mic? Yeah, it's our honor to serve the County of Fresno as your federal advocate, both in Washington, D.C. and in California, and with Spencer in California. I appreciate the opportunity to participate with you virtually today. There is a lot going on in Washington surrounding the federal budget and the development of a major budget reconciliation package. And this also gives us the opportunity to highlight the team at Townsend Public Affairs serving the county, both here in Washington and in California. We're able to meet with federal representatives where they are, whether they're in their districts or out here in Washington, D.C. So our presentation today will, since we're new with the county, we'll provide you just a brief overview of our firm and the services we're offering. And then we'll go through the politics, the policy, and the process of what to expect here in 2025. With the new Congress, new administration, there's a lot of opportunity. We're going to give you a brief preview of everything to expect. Let me turn it back over to Spencer.
Thank you, Ben. So TPA, we're a California-based advocacy firm with offices in Orange County, Sacramento, Washington, D.C., and also a satellite office here in Fresno. We have 2 time zones covered for you, and I'm available to pop down into Fresno whenever needed to meet with any of you, county staff, and also your congressional delegation when they are back in the districts also. Next slide. So working with the county moving forward, happy to be working for you as an extension of the county out in Washington, D.C. We'll be working with county staff to implement and advance the county's goals, legislative priorities, and based off the newly adopted platform. And of course, coordinating with NACO and organizing any legislative advocacy trips for a county delegation, working with our federal team, setting up meetings with members of Congress, the executive branch, anyone out there in DC that you'd like to meet with. Next slide. So a lot's changed in Washington, DC in the last couple of months. Republicans hold slim majorities in both chambers in the Senate and in the House. And every legislative fight this year will come down to those slim majorities. They will define a lot of votes with just a couple members being able to change the outcome of any legislative action. So slim majorities really will be the hallmark of this Congress during this first couple of years. Also, new governing leadership. President Donald Trump was elected into his second term, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune assumes leadership in the Senate, with Speaker Mike Johnson resuming his speakership. So really, over the next couple of years, a lot will be defined by how these three will be working with each other. There's some new faces in the county's congressional delegation. Senator Adam Schiff and Congressman Adam Gray are starting their first terms in their respective houses, and with Congressman Vince Fong starting his first full term after finishing out former Speaker Kevin McCarthy's last term. And of course, Congressman Tom McClintock and Jim Costa are resuming their terms as well. Ben, back to you.
Thank you, Spencer. Next, I want to share an overview of some of the legislative actions we can expect coming up here in 2025 and beyond, so that you are aware of what opportunities lay ahead for engagement with the federal government. First one I want to highlight is the upcoming fight over federal appropriations. Congress has a March 14th deadline to resolve fiscal year 25, the current fiscal year's federal funding. And then as soon as fiscal year 25 is resolved, we expect quick action on getting started on the fiscal year 26 process. The county will have the opportunity to engage directly with our federal delegation to advance specific funding requests for the county, as well as support programmatic requests for programs, funding for programs that are important to the county's operations. Then simultaneously, this spring, Congress is focused on enacting a large budget reconciliation package, as this is where unified party control has an opportunity to pass taxing and spending legislation and circumvents a filibuster in the Senate, providing for typically large legislative packages to move relatively quickly. And as part of this package, congressional Republicans are looking to extend the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, as well as provide funding for defense, boosted funding for border enforcement, as well as to changes to federal energy policy to provide an opportunity for additional energy exploration across the country. Now, there are some discussions around this legislative package around offsets. There are many numbers floating around Washington, D.C. right now about how much this bill could potentially cost. And then there's also negotiations around how much of those costs to offset. And so as Congress debates this reconciliation package, there's going to be a lot of discussions around potential cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and TANF, among others. And so we'll be keeping you informed about those debates and any potential impacts they could have on county operations. Another big policy bill moving this year is a reauthorization of the Farm Bill. This is the bill that authorizes all USDA agricultural, nutrition, and rural development programs. It was last enacted in 2018 and needs to be renewed before September 30th, 2025. There'll be a great opportunity this spring to engage with the House and Senate Agriculture Committees, of which 2 members of the House delegation serve on, as well as 1 member of our Senate delegation serve on that committee to advance the county's agricultural and rural development priorities. Now, meanwhile, all this is going on. A big debate between now and potentially June will be over lifting the federal debt limit. The politics of the debt limit are difficult and are typically used as a point of leverage by the party that's out of power in DC to gain leverage over the majority. And so how the politics of the debt limit will play into the politics of the first 6 months of this year could be pretty impactful. And then the last item I want to highlight for you, it's a little more long-term, but obviously will have big impacts on the county, is the reauthorization of federal surface transportation programs. This happens typically every 5 years. Programs were last reauthorized by the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And so programs are set to come up for reauthorization before September 30th, 2026. But Congress is going to be spending 2025 taking input and beginning to draft those bills, hold hearings, receive input from stakeholders. So 2025 is the year to engage with our delegation on the county's transportation priorities. And last, before we wrap up, we'll talk a little bit about the process, provide you an overview of what to expect this year. Again, we're really looking forward to hosting you out here in Washington, D.C. in just a couple of weeks for the annual National Association of Counties Legislative Conference. That'll be a great opportunity to get out front of all these budget requests, the transportation requests, farm bill requests here early in 2025, get those priorities in front of our delegation early. And then March 14th, as I mentioned, is that government funding deadline. So by being out here at the beginning of March, you'll be able to weigh in both on fiscal year 25 appropriations as well as the start of fiscal year 26 appropriations. We expect those deadlines to get our requests in for federal funding opportunities to come potentially in late March, maybe early April, somewhere in that time frame. And then March 31st marks the end of a number of important health-related programs are set to expire that day, but I would expect that those extensions get dealt with as part of the funding legislation prior to the March 14th shutdown deadline. And then April 30th, that's a big milestone in DC. It marks the end of the first 100 days of the second Trump administration. It also happens to be the date that if Congress passes another continuing resolution would be the date that a 1% spending cut would go into effect across the board as a result of legislation passed 2 years ago. And then this summer, our deadlines to avoid that debt ceiling default, as well as action on the Farm Bill, action on the National Defense Authorization Act, and potentially a deadline to submit requests to our federal delegation on surface transportation reauthorization. And then in the fall, we typically see a lot of negotiations between the House and the Senate to conference agreements from legislation that was passed over the summer. September 30th is that end of the federal fiscal year when many programs are expiring. And then at the end of the year is the big deadline to finish work on the tax bill and wrap up government funding. So with that overview, again, we're really looking forward to working with you all. It's our honor to serve the county of Fresno, and we look forward to any questions you may have.
I have a couple questions. So looking at Medicare funding from the federal government, that of course is used in Medi-Cal here in California. Is there still a lot of talk in Washington about changing the methodology, how the federal government allocates those dollars to maybe like a block grant? What's going on with that?
That's right. So no, there have been no official proposals put in writing just yet, but there are a lot of conversations happening behind closed doors right now about making structural changes to Medicaid as part of the pay-fors for the budget reconciliation bill. Some of those proposals are putting on work requirements on Medicaid recipients in certain age ranges, as well as a potential to block grant or put on per capita caps to the federal reimbursement rate for Medicaid. So those are active discussions that are happening right now, and something we've been informing county staff about for the last few weeks as these discussions have continued.
And then looking at DOGE, that entity that's trying to weed out government waste and abuse, have they set their eyes on either Department of Social Services, public health, or behavioral health programs or funding in Washington? Because I know that those three departments are heavily reliant on federal funds.
DOGE being a unique, new, novel concept being put in place by President Trump, they're not publishing lists. They're not, they're not indicating where they're going next. So we are definitely keeping an eye on what programs they are targeting, and we'll continue to keep the county informed. But at this time, we have no indication that they are going after those Department of Health and Human Services programs. However, with a broad mandate to tackle fraud, waste, and abuse throughout the federal government, we do know that they are doing reviews across the government. And so in my view, it'd be just a matter of time until they begin to take a look at those programs. And again, when that happens, when and if that happens, we will keep the county informed of their actions.
One last question. So the governor had a conversation with the president last week. Do we have any indication what was discussed and how that could impact California?
I know he spoke a lot about California wildfire and insurance issues. And I think one other interesting area I heard that came out of that meeting was a bit of a discussion around funding for California, federal funding for California, given California's status as a so-called sanctuary state. And there's been a lot of talk, a lot of action coming out of the Department of Justice just in the last week targeting sanctuary jurisdictions. And I heard that topic of discussion came up in his meeting with the president. Details, again, was not in the room. But, that is one topic of discussion, in addition to discussions around how to build up California's insurance markets as well as provide relief to those impacted by wildfires up and down the state.
Okay. Anybody else? I just want to ask you one quick question. Do you know what regular order is?
Excuse me?
Do you know what regular order is?
No, sir.
Yeah, usually people your age don't. It hasn't been used in that long. I'm sure the senior partners remember what it was.
I'm sure.
They need to explain that to you.
Sounds good. What would you like me to do?
Okay.
Well, what's interesting in Washington, was it 2008, the last time we had a budget, an actual working budget? Because we've been operating with a
Something like
continuing
that,
resolution ever since.
Yeah.
Washington works a lot differently today compared to how it used to operate 30 years ago. So, for what it's worth.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, we all have that notion of a bill gets introduced, it moves through committee with public hearing with, you know, debate, and then it gets passed in one chamber and goes to the other, and they conference it, and the president signs it into law, and we have our regular order. And it doesn't seem to happen as much anymore.
No.
And in particular, when we're looking at these large pieces of legislation like the budget reconciliation bill that Congress is contemplating at the moment, a lot of that action and decisions are made behind closed doors. But there will be some committee hearings here probably in March, April, but those decisions are made well before anything gets made public. And so it's more just a pro forma approach. So yeah, regular order would provide us more opportunity to, we're always looking for more opportunities of transparency and weighing in. But I think one of our challenges and what we're working to do on behalf of the county is engage with our lawmakers before those decisions get made behind closed doors, so that we can make sure that all of the priorities listed in the platform are known to our delegation, and they can take those into consideration when they're having those discussions before public hearings are.
Is there an appetite to reduce deficit spending or eliminate it altogether? Or does it look like we're going to continuing to have a growing national deficit?
That is one of the biggest points of debate right now as part of this budget reconciliation bill, right, is how much of, you have two sides of the ledger. You have the tax and spend, or the revenue side, the taxes, what's coming in, or what, then you have the spending side. So, and it gets complicated when you're talking about extending these tax rates. How do you account for that, right? Are you just, is it a cost or is it neutral? That's a big debate going on right now. I won't get into it too much, but to answer your question specifically, yes, congressional Republicans, in particular those of the Freedom Caucus, are demanding between $2 and $2.5 trillion in cuts to tackle deficit spending. Whereas it's estimated right now, the latest numbers I heard was that the priorities that they want to pass through budget reconciliation could cost between $4 and $4.7 trillion. So there is obviously about $2 trillion there between what they're looking to cut and the cost of extending current programs. But there is an appetite to offset the cost of some of these policies, and that is what is leading to discussions around cuts to programs, potential cuts to programs, and changes to the tax code.
Okay, I think thank you for coming and thank you for being online. Okay.
Thank you.
And I was asked to clarify with the motion that I made previously for our platform, it was to adopt staff's changes, which we all saw, also incorporate the modification which Supervisor Luis Chavez included under that economic development bullet point. So just to be clear for the record, I think all of us understood that, but just to be clear.
We now move to item number 8, under the Administrative Office and Behavioral Health. Make a finding that it is in the best interest of the county to waive the provision of Administrative Policy Number 27 that requires grant applications to be reviewed and approved by the board before submitting to the funding agency, or submitted contingent on board approval due to the funding agency requiring board approval before submitting the final application, making a retroactive approval unattainable.
Good morning, Board. Dylan McCulley, Homelessness Program Manager with the County Administrative Office. The item before you today is a recommendation to apply for Home Key Plus funding for 2 permanent supportive housing projects in partnership with developers that were selected through a competitive procurement process. One of the proposed projects is located in the west side of the city of Fresno in Supervisory District 3, and the other is in the city of Sanger in Supervisory District 4. The Sanger location identified in the agenda item is one of 2 potential locations for this project, but both are in Supervisory District 4. The County of Fresno has partnered with both selected developers in the past and has been successful in applying for and being awarded development dollars for permanent supportive housing projects like these. If approved by your board, the county would submit 2 funding applications in the amounts of up to $31.6 million for one project and up to $35 million for the other. Director Holt can speak more to the need for these types of units in our community, but should both applications be awarded, the county would bring up to 90 new permanent supportive housing units to the region, including 51 in a rural city, making this the first project of its kind in one of our rural cities. This concludes my portion of the presentation. I'll turn it over to Director Holt to speak more on this item, but I am available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor Mendez, supervisors of the board, Susan Holt, your public guardian and behavioral health director. These projects fit our criteria for high behavioral health need areas in our community. As my colleague Dylan mentioned, we do not have a permanent supportive housing prioritizing persons with severe mental illness in our rural communities, and we have a great need in our metropolitan area as well. I would like to highlight that to date, your board has supported collaborative applications to develop 575 supportive housing units for persons prioritizing behavioral health needs, as well as 180 bridge housing units. So this additional resource would go a long way to continue to support persons with behavioral health needs. In these developments, as our board is aware, we provide the supportive services to persons with serious mental illness. These services include comprehensive assessment, wraparound supports including rehabilitation, therapy, and medication support. We know that when persons who are unhoused with serious mental illness are provided both housing and the on-site wraparound supports, they have the ability to accelerate their recovery and thrive. That concludes my remarks this morning, and I'm open to taking any questions of our board.
Okay, go ahead.
And so again, Susan, thank you for your comments. A couple questions I have. I know that as there are additional projects that take place in the county and your department's involved with those supportive housing units, you have a finite revenue source. So I just want to make sure that with the approval of this, if this moves forward, that you're pretty confident in that revenue source being available. Because typically, I think you make a commitment for like 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, on some of these projects. So it's important for those revenue sources to be available and not over-prescribed.
Yes, Supervisor, that's correct. These applications typically have a requirement for a long-term commitment for the supportive services. In our rapidly evolving fiscal climate, we are prioritizing Medicaid claimable treatment services. And within the application parameters, there is the opportunity to consider operating subsidies. And as we work on those applications, there is some potential to offset the costs of the Medicaid claimable match, but we do have sufficient revenue to continue to expand. Just again, to clarify, the persons that we would serve would be individuals who are eligible for Medi-Cal, and we would provide the treatment services that they need to recover.
Okay. Is that your only question? Okay. Any other questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So on the Housing Authority, the total estimated cost for the project is $30,393,000, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's for 39 total units?
Correct.
So my calculation, that comes out to $779,000 per unit,
That's correct.
which is an outrageous number. It's almost $1 million. It's $800,000 per unit. Why does this cost so much money? I mean, obviously, the private sector could build this without costing $800,000 per unit for apartments.
Sure, and I think, part of the issue here is both the rising costs of materials and regulations for state-funded projects like these, the requirement for prevailing wage. I would also mention that this home key funding can support operating subsidies and relocation costs, so that's built into the project budget as well. So that's contributing to the high cost.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm asking the question, but, I know that it's involved with a lot of the regulations and things of that sort, but it's always, and it was the same thing for me at the city. I can't get to a place using taxpayer money that spends almost $800,000 per unit for apartments. Now, in contrast, the other development, it's a $21 million project. They have 50 studio units. It comes out to $421,000 per unit. That's a high price too, but I can support that, knowing that, it is these mandates and things. But the other project is almost double that cost. So I can't support that. So I would ask the board to break these up into two projects. I can support the one, but I can't support the other one. So if you're okay with that, if there's other questions, I can make a motion if you want, or you want to go out to public comment.
It's in your district, Louise. Well, that's.
Do we have to go out to public comment, or can I make a motion?
Is there any public comment on this? No public comment. Go ahead.
If you're okay, Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the RHCB development, or would you like to make that motion?
You want to bifurcate those two?
Yes,
Just
please.
separate them and vote on them individually. Legal can we do that? First of all, is the
I
question.
think we can.
Yeah.
I think they're two separate grant applications, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so there's no
issue with
as long as you approve all the other staff recommended actions to empower them, but you can take two separate votes on the two.
Let's do
wanna
that.
make-
It's fine. I'll make the motion to bifurcate those two, so Supervisor Butterfield can vote no,
You want to make the motion for you?
and then
first
approve the other projects as well. I'm gonna approve both of them, but I know you're gonna vote against one of them.
one? Right, so do you want to make a motion for the first one in?
I'll make the motion. Which one are you separating? out?
I'm supportive of the RHCB development one. That's
He's
400.
supportive of mine.
And
Are you
I
sure?
apologize.
You know what? Go ahead, make notes so you can codify it, and I'll second.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the RHCB development in Sanger.
A second.
Supervisors, I did just want to make one clarification. Fresno Housing Authority let us know that the project is for 63 units and not the 39 that are listed in the agenda item. Just wanted to make sure you had that information.
63?
Yes.
Okay,
Does that help?
I don't know.
It'll lower the cost significantly
Yeah.
per unit.
Okay, so I got a motion and a second to do the first one.
Yep.
All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Okay,
I'll make a motion to support the other project.
And I'm going to slowly second it while we get a calculation.
And it was how many units?
63?
63.
Yes, I can support that.
There you go.
Supervisor Chavez, does that include all the other recommended actions by staff for clarity of the motion?
Right. By all recommended actions, so I got a motion and a second. All in favor, so going saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Okay, we'll move to item 9.
It's fuzzy.
We now move to item number 9, under Public Health, retroactively approve and authorize the Department of Behavioral Health's previous submittal of the biennial 24-26 Community Mental Health Services Block Grant application to the Department of Health Services.
Supervisors, I'm Susan Holt, your Behavioral Health Director and Public Guardian. Before you today is the routine matter of business for the biennial Mental Health Block Grant and Substance Use Block Grant, which is federal pass-through dollars that come through the state of California, and county behavioral health agencies like ours apply for allowable expenditures. This item is typically retroactive because of the timeline for the state to release this and then the time it takes us to come to the board. I'm happy to take any questions of the board this morning on both the mental health block grant and the substance use block grant.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any comments from the board before we go out to the public? Yes, sir. Yes, Supervisor.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Looking at this particular item and just block grant funding in general, any concerns that some of the block grant funding that we're getting being in jeopardy? Are we pretty confident that that funding source is one which is going to continue to be in place for at least the next 3 to 5 years?
As we're watching, as timely with the presentation earlier this morning, we are watching to see if there's any indications that our block grants could be in jeopardy. We're not seeing that right now. We are closely monitoring that. I believe CSEC is also watching that, as well as Behavioral Health Directors Association. Right now, I feel very confident in the funding. This funding does offset our reliance on realignment, allowing us to dedicate our realignment funds to other critical services.
And the need for the retroactive approval on this, what were some of the challenges in getting this to us before it actually, spending needed to begin?
Two factors. One, it's always retroactive because the timeline for the state, we have to do a placeholder application and then negotiate with the state and then return to your, or come to your board for that retroactive approval. There was an internal delay that was associated with our reorganization, and in spite of our efforts to make sure every task was accounted for in the transition of duties from one team to another, we got behind. So it is always retro, but it is more retro this time.
With the reorganizational delay, we're not being penalized for that at all?
No. These, we would still get the full allocation of the funds pursuant to the application and the agreement that your board would approve today, should you so choose.
Thanks.
Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor is going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Just for clarification, Supervisor
Item
Bredefield
10.
made the motion? And Chavez second?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sorry.
I couldn't hear them, so I apologize. We now move to item number 10, under Public Works and Planning. Consider an appeal of Planning Commission's approval of unclassified conditional use permit number 3677.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, David Randall with the Department of Public Works and Planning. This item comes to your board on appeal of the Planning Commission's decision on its approval on November 14th at its public hearing. The project proposes to allow for the construction, operation, maintenance, and future decommissioning of a photovoltaic solar facility generating up to 200 megawatts of energy, along with the energy storage facility with an approximate capacity of 184 megawatts. An appeal of the Planning Commission's approval was filed on November 27th. The appeal stated that there were perceived deficiencies with the draft EIR, and the county should require the use of a local workforce to benefit the community's economic development and environment. The project applicant, in response to the appeal, states that the applicant raised identical points in its comments on the draft EIR. The county responded to those comments in the final EIR by stating that the applicant has committed to recruiting and hiring the local workforce to the extent feasible, that the project will not result in significant air quality emissions or vehicle miles traveled. The applicant further states that the appellant's claim that the project description has changed and a revised EIR should be recirculated for public comment because the final EIR modifies the project's description to remove 3 parcels from the project site. And secondly, that an air impact assessment application submitted consistent with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District should be made available for public comment as part of the EIR. These both lack merit, as the final EIR makes clear that the project retains the same capacity of up to 200 megawatts and 184 megawatts of storage. as identified in the draft EIR, just in a slightly smaller footprint. Second, if the project generating capacity had been reduced, this would not amount to a change that deprives the public of a meaningful opportunity to commit on a substantial adverse effect, which is the reason you would trigger a recirculation under CEQA regulations. The EIR does not merely assert the compliance with Rule 9510 will ensure the impact is less than significant. The EIR goes above that and provides extensive calculations and analysis supporting its conclusion. The applicant also states that their construction contractor has already signed onto and implemented a long-standing multi-trade project labor agreement for the project. Staff would note that the representatives from the applicant team are present today at today's hearings, and if I can answer any questions, I'd be glad to. Otherwise, that concludes my presentation.
Is there any questions for?
Just one. Since EIR was raised, issues with it, and there were some legal concerns, I assume, Dan, you had an opportunity to review this and also concur that the EIR is still sufficient, recirculation is not necessary with the changes to the project.
Right. We believe that it is, and then, of course, we always recommend that these approvals come with a condition of an indemnification and defense clause from the applicant, so that if there is a challenge to it, it's on the applicant to defend that.
Okay.
Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and you alluded to this, that the applicant is committed to hiring from the local community.
Correct.
Okay, but that's not part of the contract, but we're just going on the fact that they're making that pledge.
Correct. They've indicated that in the document. It was addressed in the final EIR. There is not a, though, empirical mechanism to do that. It is identified as part of the county's solar guidelines as what they do. This was, and they've responded to that in their application, that this is their intent. They do have existing, though, agreements in place for labor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, which you'll have a chance to question him when he comes, because they both come. Okay, with that, I will open up the hearing to receive public testimony. The applicant has 5 minutes to present. Yeah.
Morning, Supervisors. Hello, everyone. My name is Timothy Muley. I am the Senior Director of Development with EDP Renewables, here on behalf of the Sunrisa Solar Project, EDPR CA Solar Park 6 LLC. Thank you all very much for your time this morning. I do want to thank the Department of Public Works and Planning and county staff for all of the work in preparation of this environmental impact report and all of the professionalism and dedication over the past few years to get us to this point. I think county staff summarized the situation very well, so I do appreciate them talking on the matter. The Sunrisa Solar Project would be adjacent to an existing operational solar and storage project in District 1, and just wanted to make you all aware that we are here in attendance in case there's any questions we can help with.
Okay, is there any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, I do.
Yes.
Just thank you for meeting with me. The project that you referenced when we met, it's adjacent to this future project. Was that project, did you utilize local workforce folks in that project as well?
Yes, we did. So the contractor that was hired on to build that project had also signed a project labor agreement for the construction of the Scarlet project, similar to what would happen here.
How many jobs did that previous project create?
In the realm of a few hundred. I could get the exact number, sir, but I'm not familiar offhand.
And this next one, how many jobs is it projected to?
Similar size. So a few hundred
Similar
local
size?
jobs. Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Supervisor Pacheco, it's in your
But
district.
thank you for bringing something up. Is there anybody else that has to report any ex parte communications?
I do.
'Cause I did talk to him yesterday.
I did as well, but last week.
Okay. I know Brian doesn't, so.
I don't talk to anyone
Yeah,
between the planning commission and here.
We did, Supervisor Bredefeld, yes.
okay. Sorry about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so that's on record that I also met with them as well.
Yeah.
And thank you all for your time.
Everybody, we're done? Now thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the party that did the appeal, do you want to come up and speak? They didn't. Okay.
I think if you just note, Mr. Chairman, that correspondence has been submitted and there are materials in the
Right.
agenda that have been submitted to the board on the party's
Okay.
behalf.
Is there any comments in favor, public comments in favor of the appeal? Is there any comments against the appeal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the board. My name is White Meadows. I think some of you know me. With Operating Engineers Local Union Number 3. Sorry, Local Union Number 3. Our members worked on the previous project that they were speaking about, as did many of the trades in this area. And majority of the trades here hire from a local pool. My particular area covers the Tulare, Kings, Fresno, Madera, Merced, and Mariposa counties. Majority of the people that work on these projects down in the south area for us are local, anywhere from the Hanford area out into the other areas, the more rural areas of Fresno County. I just wanted to note that it says that this is on behalf of the Carpenters Local 701. That can be party to that. They just choose not to right now for some reason, and then that they are not here, obviously. So we'd like you guys to uphold the originally IR on the project as being. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Mendez, rest of the board. My name is Ronnie Young. I'm the Business Manager, Financial Secretary of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 100, here in Fresno, California. Represent around 1,400 to 1,500 electrical workers in those 4 counties. We have done many projects like the Sunrisa project. And in the area of the Sunrisa project, we've done Tranquility 1, Scarlet 1, Tranquility 2, Scarlet 2, Little Bear project, and a couple other projects in those areas. Each one of those projects, from an electrical standpoint, probably employs roughly 200 electrical workers. And that's from Fresno, Madera, Kings, and Tulare counties, the counties we represent. So from an economic standpoint, workforce development standpoint, that's absolutely huge. But the biggest benefit is the apprenticeship opportunities. The Sunrisa project will probably generate anywhere from 50 to 70 apprenticeship opportunities. And these are individuals, some coming out of poverty, going to provide them with a living wage, health care, and pension benefits. Teach them a career that will last them a lifetime. That's the kind of opportunities projects like Sunrisa offer. And IBW Local 100 has probably done about 50 or 60 of these in our 4 counties. And like I said, it's just a huge benefit, especially for that part of the community. So myself and the 1,400 to 1,500 electrical workers that I represent, we support the project, and we would like you to reject the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Mendez, board members, thank you for the opportunity today. James Hammond, Business Manager, Laborers Local 294. I'd like to reiterate what my brothers had presently said about the project, creating great workforce opportunities. We've done numerous solar projects out there on the west side of Fresno County, and those projects have employed a number of members that make a livable wage with benefits and pensions. I would ask for your denial of the appeal and to just go on record that Laborers Local 294 strongly supports the Sunrisa solar project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, this project's in my district. We've had a long history of solar projects in our 2 districts. We've never had an issue with local labor force. A little surprised that this appeal has come forward. From me, we've heard testimony from, for me, the litmus test is always operating engineers, IBEW, and as well as the laborers. They're in full support. They have a history. The project's already been done. This is simply an expansion of that project. I would therefore make the motion to deny the appeal.
Second. And uphold the planning commission's approval?
Correct.
All right, I'll second that.
If I
Motion
could,
and a second.
Supervisor, with the contingency that appropriate indemnification. and
As
defense
everything that's stated in the report to us.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, is going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
We now move to item number 11, Board of Supervisor Committee Reports and Comments.
Who wants to start? You wanna
Kick it
start?
off. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just two quick updates. We had our first meeting for the Foster Youth Oversight Committee this last week, so I got a chance to sit in the committee for the first time. There is a report that is final that will be coming to the full board on March 25th. And obviously, we'll be sharing that information that was shared with me. There, I am meeting with their chair this upcoming week to go over the report before it comes to the board, just to make sure that everything there is included, that my colleagues would, I feel, deem valuable on there. And then just a really quick update, I got a couple of emails and inquiries from media. There's a report out there that the city and the county are doing an immigrant affairs committee. Just for clarification, the context of this is the city is actually disbanding their official immigrant affairs committee on Thursday, and they're replacing it with an ad hoc. My office is going to be collaborating as an ad hoc committee. It's not a formal committee, and it's not part of that.
Call it an ad hoc because it wasn't actually formed as an ad hoc committee. You can say you're
So it's an
working on
advisory
it with-
committee. It's an
Yeah.
advisory committee on there. But just point of clarification, so that will not be subject to the Brown Act. They do not have a schedule. It'll be meeting as needed with the folks that work in that arena. Thank you for that.
Supervisor Magzik.
This week, I can tell you that our CAO and myself were headed to Sacramento. There's a reception in the evening where we're going to be, the County of Fresno is going to be recognized, and looking forward to that. And here in a few weeks, I'll be going back to Washington, D.C. to work with NACO. I not only sit on the board of directors, but I'm vice chair of their Finance, Pensions, and Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. I've drafted a resolution, and I'll be fighting for that resolution, which deals with really wildfire prevention at the federal level. And Fresno County, my district especially, there's a lot of lands managed by the U.S. Forest Service and national parks. And many times we have private property owners that abut some of these federal lands. And so I'm going to be working on trying to find a way for the federal government to work with us at the local level to create buffer areas where you have wildland urban interface. So the resolution's already been crafted, and I'm pretty confident that it'll be accepted, and we'll be able to, again, lobby Washington for them to take more action when it comes to wildfire prevention here in Fresno County and across the entire United States. Also on the insurance front, we are seeing more and more people finding it challenging to get fire insurance. And last week, I was on the news regarding an executive order that the governor issued about some new fire zones that are going to be created across the state. And I believe our region, maybe in March, there should be some new fire zones that are identified. I'm concerned about this because as insurance companies look at fire risk in general, and more areas are brought into fire risk areas, it's going to, there could be a potential for people to lose already the difficult insurance that's out there. So the FAIR Plan has been just hammered, and again, lots of concerns regarding insurance here in the state of California, but those are some things my office has been working on.
Okay, thank you. Gary? You have any?
No.
And I'm good also. I have a lot of things I'm working on, but I'm not going to opine on anything right now. So move to item 12.
We now move to item number 12, board appointments.
You have any, Gary?
Yes, I do, Chairman. I want to appoint Christina Garabedian to the Zoo Authority for a new term. She's already holding the position.
Yeah, we'll do them all. Okay. You have one.
To reappoint Charles Briggs, whose term expired on 1/6/2025 to the Clovis Cemetery District.
Okay. Supervisor Chavez, okay. I've got a bunch again. Okay, for the Kalinga Huron Cemetery District, reappoint Sherry Kanoha. The Housing and Community Development Citizens Advisory Committee, reappoint Connie Velasco to a new term, and reappoint Gary Barber to a new term. The Housing and Community Development Citizens Advisory, appoint Tina Closter in a position previously held by Vince Romano. And for the Planning Commission, and this is the District 4 Planning Commission seat, appoint Michelle Roman to the position previously held by Byron Arcero. The new term to 1/4/27. So now I'll take a motion.
Motion approved.
Yep. Second, all in favor is going to say an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried.
We now move to item number 13, public presentations.
Yeah, this is public presentation. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board in any matter not on the agenda. Pursuant to Administrative Policy 29, presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person and no more than 15 minutes per topic.
Good morning, members of the board. Dylan Savory. I'm the executive director of the Union Central Labor Council here in Fresno and surrounding counties. I think most of you know me. I'm here to implore you all to find a way to finish the contract that everybody in this room is here to talk about today. And I know that government ideologies may differ between the folks in this room and probably different folks on the board, but I want to talk about some facts. First of all, it's a fact that IHSS workers have really difficult jobs. Taking care of the elderly is a hard job. Taking care of disabled folks, whatever age they are, is a really, really difficult job. It's also a fact that this is the largest workforce in Fresno County. 25,000 workers that you all have an opportunity to make a direct impact on. Most of them who do not have health care. Most of them are living right along the poverty line. They've been waiting for this board to take action for the last couple of years. Previous to that, it took 8 years to get a contract for these folks, and they're here to beg you to find a way to get over the hump today. And you know, each of these workers probably, they have at least one person they're taking care of. That's 50,000 people that you all have an opportunity to impact in just the next couple hours, the next couple days. We're imploring you to take action. People don't become IHSS workers. They don't dream of this when they're growing up. It's out of love, and it's out of sacrifice, and it's something that they do out of the spirit of their hearts. And they know they're not going to get paid a lot, and they know it's not going to be a household income, but they do it because they have to. And by the way, there are tens of thousands of hours that actually don't get picked up that are requested. So we're not even fulfilling the need as a workforce that we have in Fresno County for these workers. We also know that they save the government money, that they could be in other government-funded institutions, but we are saving them money by taking care of people in their homes, keeping their houses, off the market, keeping people with dignity and respect. And it's something that should be considered God's work. We also know it's a fact that the county only pays a fraction of the actual wages. The federal government and the state government puts that money up. I think it's 17 cents on the dollar that the county pays. And so every dollar that you put into their pockets goes right into the local economy. It doesn't go into the stock market. It doesn't go into a savings account. They put that into all the local businesses that you all care about. I think it is a conservative principle We're saving the government money. We're putting money back into the small businesses. I still don't understand why this has taken so long. It benefits the local economy. I want to close by saying that the law firm and the lawyer that has represented you all with these workers has been absolutely terrible. She does not deserve to be your lawyer. She is a black eye in this community, and we really hope that you move on and find some dignity for these workers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill Mata. I have been a healthcare provider. This is my sister, Dana Wells. I've been her healthcare provider for about 5 years. We didn't know about any such services for an extended amount of time because our mother passed away when I was 17. And she was born disabled. And we had no idea, 17-year-old doesn't even know where their head is at the time, but we had no idea what kind of services were available. I do work very hard for her to make sure that she is treated properly. Previously, before she came totally disabled, I was working in the workforce, and I was getting about $18.75 an hour, where I was working with benefits. And I chose to take that sacrifice for my sister to take care of her. And it's very, very hard right now. We're living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, we do the best we can. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people in these circumstances. And I do understand the way that, the government works. I understand that. I understand that there are certain things that we do need to do. But I just want to let you know that this is something that I am doing from my heart. And trying to keep families together is one of the most important things that was for our family anyway. And I just want to let you know that we do deserve a raise and we do deserve benefits. That's about all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Buenos días. Good afternoon.
Mi nombre es Silvia Carrillo.
My name is Sylvia Carrillo.
Yo trabajo como proveedora para 4 personas,
I work for a provider for 4 people,
el cual me dan solamente 2 horas por persona.
in which they only give me 2 hours per
Tengo que
client.
cambiarme de un lugar en otro en camión
I have to transfer from one
y el
job to
cual
another.
no tengo derecho a una
Why don't I
cobertura
have the right?
médica porque gano
Why
mucho
can't
para el
I get
condado.
insurance? Because I've had good too much from the county.
Estoy necesitando, pidiendo que
I'm
nos
needing
aprueben
and I'm
aseguranza
asking
médica.
that to approve our
Yo
insurance.
soy una persona con cáncer.
I'm a person with cancer.
Tenía cáncer en el colon,
I had
ahora
colon
me acaban
cancer.
de decir que posiblemente ya en
And
el
now
hígado. He
possibly
luchado
now the
mucho
liver.
por mi vida y
I
no he
have fought a
dejado de
lot for my life,
trabajar.
and I haven't stopped working.
Yo voy a México,
I go to
traigo
Mexico.
pruebas.
I bring proof.
Donde yo voy a México,
Where I go to
pago
Mexico,
cobertura
I pay coverage
en México
in Mexico
porque aquí no me dan.
because here they
Yo
don't give it to
aporto
me.
esta nación
I hear
y
from our
pido
nation,
que esta
and I'm
nación
asking that you guys
me responda a mí
respond
y a
to me,
mis compañeros,
to me and
que
my
somos
fellow
muchísimos
coworkers.
trabajadores,
We're many workers
el cual amamos este trabajo,
in which we love our work.
damos amor.
We give it with love.
Que Dios les toque sus corazones.
May God touch your hearts.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Oh.
Do I get a chance Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Olga Valle, SEIU 2015, Executive Board Member. Yes, it's really important that we close our contract in a good faith contract. Like I've said before, your attorney is horrible in our negotiations. He is very nasty with our leader. I blame you. I blame you because I know, well, I think she works for you. It seems like you work for her. I hope she works for you. Please make it clear that we should be at least civil. I want to make very clear that it is very difficult and I hear that there's some movement in the health insurance. There's no way for us to make more than 1,700 per month to get Medi-Cal, and that's what we're negotiating. That's what they told us, that we should give up our health insurance so that we can get on Medi-Cal. I cannot pay my bills on 1,700 a month. And yes, I do need the health care. My daughter needs the health care. She has a brain tumor, and she had her second surgery this year. So she had one last year. She's had to have another one this year, and we're monitoring it, and it's difficult. She's still working. She is a provider. She's not a recipient. And so I urge you to come up with a good faith contract for us. We need good wages. Everything is so expensive. I understand the new administration that's now in office. And with that reason, we need this contract done because I have so much more to do in the community than be held hostage here fighting for our contract. And I appreciate each one of you. And I know you say bring new people. Well, you have to understand that we're representing, I have made more than 7,000 texts, more than I can count on calls. But and maybe I need to bring a list of the names that I do represent, that they tell me I cannot come. But remember, when you have someone that is getting IHSS, most of us cannot get out of the house. It's really difficult. So it's a hardship to get here. In fact, one of our friends, Nathan, when we invited Rachel Hill here, it was really difficult for her. And we have a lot of people like that. So please keep in mind who we are representing. I'm going to leave this. It's
Thank you.
for, and you can see what it's for.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you. Can I ask a question of somebody who makes a statement that I'd like to get some additional information, or you want me to wait till afterwards?
We can wait till the end.
Okay.
Hello, I'm John Grove. And you know, there are people in this country that work hard every day, and it's not fame or fortune that they really strive for. And the fruits of their labors are worth way more than what they're paid. And it's time that care providers got supported, okay? You know, and there's been talking about throwing numbers around. Well, let's do that. Let's throw some numbers around. There are 58, excuse me, there are 58 care providing counties in California. 6 are paid less than Fresno. 6 are paid the same as Fresno. 45 of them are paid more than Fresno County. That's not fair the way I see it. You say that we're being accused of asking too much. Okay. Care providers do many of the same or similar duties as nurses, MTAs, paramedics, physicians, as well as other medical personnel. Since you're saying that we're asking too much, are you saying that they're paid too much? We're doing, a lot of the same things that they do. Is that what you guys are saying? Okay, here's some more numbers. Collectively, 27 counties receive benefits that Fresno does not, such as training, stipend, and/or incentives, transport passes, life insurance, dental. Why is Fresno not on these other lists? Here's some more. Number 5, Santa Clara, $20.04 an hour. Number 4, Napa County, $20.50 an hour. Number 3, San Luis Obispo County, $21 an hour. Number 2, San Mateo County, $21.30 an hour. Number 1, San Francisco, $22 an hour. There's no reason why Fresno has to be kept down so low on these lists and everything, and why they can't be brought up. It's like you guys are saying that the BOS and these other counties are wrong for caring about the needy like they do. And SEIU supported you, Brian Pacheco. SEIU supported you. They supported you, and they endorsed you and everything to get you into that seat where you are. So the least you could do is return the favor and look out for us and do what you can for us to come up with a fair negotiating contract. And the way I see it, I see 3 yes votes that should be happening. 1, 2, 3. So there's no reason for it. Let's end this thing right now and be done with it, okay? Thank you.
Okay, there'll be 2 more speakers.
Good morning,
Unless
gentlemen. My
you're
name is
quick.
Vincent Apodaca. I'm a small business owner here, and I also do in-home care, and I've been doing it for 25 years. I just want you to know how important these people are. I took care of 5 people that passed away in my arms. What we do is very hard. People at Taco Bell get paid more than we do. We're helping people's lives that nobody else will help. It's very important that we have people like us, because all of us are going to be sick and elderly one day, and we're all going to need somebody to depend on. So this is very, very important. I just want to let you guys know that, and I thank you.
My name is Irene Green. Hello, everybody. You know, my whole thing is jealousy. I'm jealous. I'm envy. I want to be able to take a vacation. I want to be able to do certain things. But with the pay that you get from in-home service, first of all, it ain't no 24-hour-a-day pay. And you have clients and stuff that live with you. I have clients that came from CPS. I had my clients ever since they was 1 and 2 years old disabled. And didn't no family member come and step up when they turned 18 to get them. And they are my family, my whole family. And I be looking and I be saying, what do the board be thinking when they go home? Do they think about us? Do it cross their mind about us? Do they have a sticker or a banner or something, or in their car, in their house? Do they think about us? Or do they think we just come here to rant and rave? When I first walk in here, I greet everybody. I greet the police, I greet the people all downstairs. How y'all doing? You know, I'm not mad. Even when you walk in here, the vibe you get from y'all officers is so ugly. It's so negative. It's like, what y'all doing? We just human beings. We here just to say what we gonna say. But my thing, I'm jealous of y'all. I'm jealous because y'all kids get to go to college and y'all got trust funds and all that kind of stuff. I'm jealous. And I be thinking to myself, I said, my kids, they didn't came through college and all that. But I see a lot of young people that take care of their mothers and their grandmothers and stuff, and they ain't even having the opportunity to make enough money so they can go to college and get better education. And it ain't so much about, it's fear. That's what it is. It's fear. Who gonna love my baby when I'm dead and gone? Who gonna take care of my baby when I'm dead and gone? It's somebody, but I know if they get enough of pay, they gonna take care of my baby to the best of their ability. You know, at the end of our life, we don't know where we gonna be. In a rest home, in a back room somewhere, somebody done forgot about us, you know, and that's what these people do. They give people love and hope. Hope. Hope.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the hearing.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name
I
is
said
Mary
I'm
Helen.
closing the public hearing.
Oh, you're closing the.
Yeah. Did you have a comment, Gary?
I wanted to ask the question of the one lady.
Okay.
Do that.
I'll step back.
I would say, Supervisor, just be cautious because we are in active negotiations with the union.
Yeah.
And we
Sure,
advise
certainly.
to limit the
The lady
communications
who
out.
said something about the attorney, I was just curious if you can come up. Yeah, I've heard, that's the second comment. Can you just briefly explain what you're talking about? The attorney is disrespectful or whatever, just so, I mean, this body has that info, at least from your perspective.
Yes, and my name is Olga Valle, and I'm on the negotiation team also. And this isn't the first time I brought it up. I've always brought it up since the very first time she's been there. She's been the words she uses, she's very demeaning. She even said she didn't want to meet with us there at our office because it was too hot or too cold and it didn't smell right and so forth. And we told her that this is where we meet and it seems pretty clean place and very decent, but she's very used to being very high up, I guess, that it doesn't fit her criteria. But not only that, it's the way she does the negotiations. She snaps with her comments. And I've mentioned that we need to come and bring it to you and let you know that it's not appropriate the way she is handling negotiations.
Okay, thank you. And just a point of order, I know we have the rule about the 15 minutes, but I know the board can change that. I'd like to make a motion to allow the public to continue with 3 minutes to speak, and it's up to the board to decide whether we do that or not. But that's my motion.
Well, I'm done. I'll call the question. All in favor, so we're saying aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I'm going to support that.
How long you gonna let them talk?
How many more speakers do we have?
Okay,
Mary,
we'll
you'll
go,
be the
Mary,
last
you
one.
go
Okay,
ahead.
Mary.
You're the last one.
Hey, my name is Mary Helen.
I'm sorry, Mary Helen, I apologize.
All right.
Mary Helen, would you like to finish?
Thank you very much. My name is Mary Helen Lopez. I live at 14626 Monterey Lane in Kerman. I came up here not with the purple, but I'm here with mother. Being a mother, and when you're a mother, it's 20 years. Yes, it's a domestic thing that you do for your baby. And yes, we don't get paid when we have a baby. We do it because we're a wife, and that's the things that we do. We put on different hats. We budget the household. And I get it. I get it where you guys are coming from. You think we have to do this job. Mothers have to do it because they're married and they have babies. I get it. I get it that you think that us as women have to do the job.
Okay, thank you.
There's people outside that probably wanted to talk but didn't get a chance.
No, I said we'd let Mary Ellen talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, but my motion is to let people speak, Chairman, who want to speak. That was seconded by Supervisor Chavez and
Is that what
supported.
you wanna do?
I mean, it's not just to let this person speak, it's to let anybody who wants to address the board come and speak.
Thank you very much for that. They're coming in from outside. Yeah, they said they're coming. They're bringing them. Bringing them. Here they come. Get it out, what?
Hi, Council. Hi, Councils. My name is Fabian Salazar.
You got to turn the thing on.
It's on.
Oh,
My name is Fabian Salazar, and I have a son with autism. As soon as he was born, we didn't know he had autism. We waited, we got him tested. He came back, he was autistic. I quit my job. This is for other parents that had to quit jobs that probably had kids before that owed child support. See, I can't get a job and go back to work because I'm on call every day with him. He don't talk, he don't do a lot of stuff that kids should do at his age. So I had to quit like my job and do everything I do to pay my other bills to take care of my kid. And I know that's my responsibility because I had him. But I'm just saying if we could get a better pay, I could probably pay my bills. That way you guys don't lock people up like me that owe child support. Thank you.
Buenos días.
Good afternoon.
Mi nombre es Felipa López.
My name is Felipe Lopez.
Yo cuido a una jovencita.
I take care of a young girl.
Tengo 2 años con ella.
I have 2 years with her.
No es mi familia.
She's not family,
Me he encariñado con ella.
but I came to care for her.
Ellos me tratan como su familia.
They treat me like their
Yo
family.
también.
I do the same.
Hay veces que nosotros
There's
pensamos,
times that we think
vamos a necesitar el servicio
we're
cuando
going to need the
estemos
service
abuelos.
when we're
No,
grandparents. No.
la vida da
That-
muchos cambios.
Life changes.
Aquí estamos,
We're here,
pero no sabemos
but we
si
don't
vamos
know
a llegar a
if
nuestra
we're going
casa.
to go home.
Yo soy terapista,
I'm a therapist.
consejera,
I'm a counselor.
housekeeping,
Housekeeping.
cocinera,
I cook
de todo.
for everything.
Usted sabe que a
You
una
guys know
enfermera le
that
dan
a
su
nurse,
pago,
they give her
a
her
la
pay.
housekeeping aparte, a la
Housekeeping is
enfermera
separate,
aparte,
their
pero
nurse
yo
is separate. But
hago
me,
muchas cosas.
I do a lot of things.
Recibo un solo sueldo.
I receive only one wage.
It's here.
Me dan nomás 7 horas
They only give
de
me 7
trabajo.
hours of work.
Dejo mi familia.
I leave my family.
Cuando yo me voy a trabajar,
When I go to work,
yo miro a mi esposo nada más
I see
cada mañana.
I only see my husband every morning.
Como ahorita él está trabajando,
Like right now, he's
yo
working.
voy a hacer todo lo que puedo en mi casa.
I'm going to do whatever I have
dejar,
to in my home
dejar limpia mi casa,
to leave my home clean,
comida.
food.
Me voy a trabajar.
I go to work.
Encuentro a mi esposo ya dormido.
I come home and he's asleep.
Pero yo lo hago con amor.
But I do it with love.
Para a la persona que estoy atendiendo
For
y
the
para mi
person I
familia.
take care of and for my family.
Ahora que reporto mis taxis,
Now I'm going to do taxes.
tengo que pagar 5,500 al gobierno.
I have to pay $5,000 to the
Que
government.
gané mucho.
That I earn too much.
Cheque que uno agarre.
The check that we get
Biles,
is for bills,
comida.
food.
No gano mucho.
I don't get that much.
Necesitamos nosotros
We
un
need
sueldo más,
a
porque pagamos
higher
taxes.
wage because we pay taxes.
Viene el cheque que
The check comes
para todos nos quitan
for
servicios que
everything
no
they take from us.
reconozco,
Services
que no
that I don't
sé qué
recognize,
son,
deductions, I don't know
y
what they
nos
are,
están quitando.
and they're taken from our check.
Estamos pagando taxes.
We're paying taxes.
Necesitamos nosotros que nos suben el
We
sueldo.
need for us to get an increase in our wage.
En noviembre
In November,
fui a emergencia a
I went to the
Selma.
emergency in Selma.
Traía un dolor.
I had a pain.
En media hora
In a half hour,
se ganaron $3,500.
they earned $3,000.
Una radiografía,
A radiation
una
X-ray.
ibuprofeno, dice para
They did it
desinflamación,
for his inflammation.
no medical.
No medical.
Gano mucho, dice.
I earn too much, they say.
Me llega el bill $3,500.
I get a bill of $3,300.
¿Dónde voy a pagar
Where am I gonna pay
$3,500 del
$3,000
hospital?
from this hospital?
$5,500 para el área res.
And then
¿Dónde?
$5,000 for the IRS. Where?
Estamos ganando muy poco.
We're earning very low.
Ahora ya
Now
la comida
the food
arriba
has gone up,
y nuestro sueldo,
and our wage,
no.
nothing.
Pongamos a pensar.
Let's stop and think.
Pensamos, cuando
We
yo
think
voy a agarrar los servicios, cuando estoy
When I'm
adulto,
going to
me
get
van
the
a cuidar,
services, when I'm
me van a
old,
mandar a un
they're going to take
asilo.
care. They're going to take care
El
of me. They're
asilo
going to send
cuesta
somebody.
muy caro.
The home it costs too much.
Nosotros les damos buen servicio en el hogar.
We give a good service in the home.
Mis compañeras hacen lo mismo,
My
mucho
coworkers do
trabajo.
the same. A lot of work.
¿Y sabe qué?
You know,
Nosotros,
nosotros
nos cansamos
we get tired
mentalmente
mentally
también.
also.
Mirar la persona,
To see the person,
cómo está.
how they are.
Para mí es una tristeza
For me, it's very sad
que la persona
that the person
me dice,
tells me,
yo tengo hijos,
I have kids.
yo soy un ser humano
I'm a human,
y nadie
and
puede estar
nobody
así postrado.
have to be stay there.
Valoren nuestro trabajo,
Value our work.
por favor.
Please.
Que Dios toque su corazón.
May God touch your
ustedes.
hearts.
Que Dios toque su corazón,
May
porque
God touch your
solamente Dios puede hacer ese
Because only
cambio
God
en
can do that
ustedes.
change in you
En
guys.
ustedes está todo,
In your hands, you
porque
have
nosotros
everything.
trabajamos
Because we
en
work
cuerpo y mente también.
mentally and body.
Cuando mi carro se descompone,
When
agarro
my
el bus,
car
2 buses para llegar a mi trabajo.
Fails, I
Estar
have to get the
puntual.
bus. And I'm there.
Por favor,
Please.
pongan su mano en su corazón y
Put your
pídele
hands in your heart.
dirección a Dios.
And
Porque
listen
Dios
to
es el
God.
único que nos
Because
tiene aquí
God
con este
is the only one that
propósito.
has us here.
Por favor,
Please.
gracias, que Dios
Thank
los
you.
bendiga.
May God bless you.
Hi, my name's Melissa Hernandez. Thank you for those of you guys that recognize that our voice is important and that we should be heard. I appreciate that. What we do is incredibly important. These people that we serve, we give everything to them. You know, there's those limited things that we are required to do for them, but they become family to us where they're in and out many times of the day. It's not just family members we're serving. I have 5 clients, and most of them are not my family members. But I choose to do this because if I don't, there's not very many people that will be willing to do this job for just a little over minimum wage. So if I'm not able to be there, I'm worried who else will take the job. To find someone that's qualified, that will give their heart like I know that I'm going to give my heart to the people I serve, because it's only 16 there. It's little over minimum wage. If they were making 20, they give their heart more, or they won't be tempted to go somewhere else. Like to go to McDonald's, that's like a slap in the face that, that a fast food restaurant can make more from flipping burgers. I did that when I was a teenager, when I was, in high school, and now as a grown adult, I have a college education and I make less than they do. But I do it because I want to serve these people and I feel I have no choice. But, I may have to, because of my financial situations, go somewhere else. I don't want to do that. Please help us. Please help us to make enough so that way we can serve these people. They deserve dignity. They deserve someone that's qualified to meet their needs. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Good morning. My name is Cristina Gutierrez. I work for Californians for Pesticide Reform. You probably seen an email that I sent all of you in regards to pesticides. So with the work that I do, CPR, what we do is a lot of health information. And we connect a lot with what SEIU 2015 does. Why? Because this has to do with health. We see a lot of these community members, they've given their whole life here in the Central Valley. For us to now be begging you guys and pleasing that we get a decent amount. All they want is to be able to make ends meet. Every single month, these people have bills. We all have bills. But the fact that we now have to struggle and think twice whether we work in this area as a SEIU 2015 member taking care of loved ones, it's hard. As you see, a lot of people have their hearts in what they do, and I'm thankful for them. I come here to support them as well, not only as a CPR organizer, but as a community member, because I see that what they do it from the heart. And I would like you guys to consider making that increase, not only $20, make it more. I mean, I know you guys get paid much more than that. Things are getting expensive. Rent, mortgage, anything you could think of, everything's going up the roof. So it would be nice for you guys to consider increasing that amount. It's not a lot that they're asking for. And one day, as it was mentioned a couple weeks ago, one day, one of these kind people are going to be taking care of you. So let's just have that in our mind. And I know that after this meeting, and eventually you're going to come back and think, well, we could easily do something good for this community. This is a San Joaquin Valley community, and all they're asking is for respect. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to go into closed session. Is there any public comment on closed session? Hearing none.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we may have an announcement out of closed session, so we will need to go into closed session and return at a time uncertain.
Okay, all right. No.
on. Go. You're on.
County Council, do we have something to report out here, I believe?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, under item 16, significant exposure to litigation, by a vote of 5-0, the board approved and authorized the chairman to sign a full release of claims with Pacific Gas Electric Company, settling claims for some certain pole removal work of $156,000 for the amount of $80,918. Once this release is signed, it'll be available at the clerk's office.